Annual Carnival of Brazil took place about 3 weeks ago, and it's an annual festival that goes on the Friday afternoon before Ash Wednesday at noon, and it marks the beginning of Lent, the 40-day period before Easter. But at this year's carnival celebration, we saw an open display of Satanism and the promotion of evil. You'll see that some of these floats that went through the carnival were of Satan himself, really, the devil, large wings, horns, the depiction that everyone around the world knows of Satan, and people just dressed up in the demonic imagery that we all know, parading these things through the street, and at one moment a blasphemous display of someone dressed as Satan chasing Jesus down, Jesus marked with stripes from being whipped, like such as at the crucifixion, chased down and then stabbed with a pitchfork. An absolute blasphemous display, and clearly one put on by someone who doesn't know the Bible, because in Colossians 2:15, they would know that Jesus Christ, having disarmed principalities and powers, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in the victory that he brought, defeating all evil through the cross and the resurrection. But these type of open blasphemous displays, or these displays of evil and the promotion of deities such as Moloch or Baal, these things take place within the world, and I'm going to get into a couple more of them and really just tie it to what the Bible has to say about all of this and where the true power lies and what God thinks of these types of displays according to his word. And none of this should surprise any of us, and I'm sure it doesn't at this point, because 2 Peter 3:3 says, above all, you must understand that in the last days scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires, something that we've seen absolutely on the increase in the past few years. In Deuteronomy 18, verses 9 through 13, it talks about occult practices, which is absolutely what was being promoted on display there at the carnival in Brazil. And that says, when you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not learn to imitate the detestable ways of the nations there. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or a spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Because of these same detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. So there's an open critique of occult practices in the book of Deuteronomy. And the book of Deuteronomy absolutely holds power, even the Old Testament, of course, does, within our current age. And we can know this because Jesus, when tempted by the devil in the desert, when fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, his response to the devil every single time that he was tempted was a quote from the book of Deuteronomy, showing the power and the importance of knowing the word and using it in your spiritual warfare. Two more things to reference about Brazil before I get into the other open displays of these occult type ceremonies and the promotion of wicked type of imagery and things of this nature is recently in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil there, the Christ the Redeemer statue was struck by lightning. And we've seen similar things like this around the world in the past. When the last pope stepped down and Pope Francis took office, that night the Vatican was struck by lightning. And even recently on August 4th, 2022, on Barack Obama's birthday, lightning struck the White House. So just some strange occurrences in reference to that, as well as Brazil right after this carnival saw extreme weather hit the region, massive flooding, and just large natural phenomenons taking place. So an interesting coincidence to say the least. Now we see at these types of events, and similarly at another event that just took place, the Commonwealth Games in 2022, with a massive bull, a type of Baal or Moloch type of worship, really, which Moloch is represented as the bull, and he is a type of false idol that children were sacrificed to in the Old Testament, and really up until it still goes on to this day. So this is some of the imagery that we see repeated in these events, such as at the carnival or at the Commonwealth Games, or even a few years back in 2016 at the opening of the Gotthard Tunnel in Switzerland, a very strange occult type ceremony that took place with just tons of occult imagery going on, strange dances, goat imagery, fallen angel type references, very strange. And that reminds me of the verse in Matthew 25:31 through 33, which says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. This is one of the reasons why we see so much goat symbology in these types of ceremonies or events or whatever they may be. And that opening of the Gotthard Tunnel in Switzerland, of course, has a tie and makes people think of CERN, which is there in Switzerland, the massively large Hadron Collider, the largest machine on Earth, I believe, something that has the potential to tear the fabric between our realm and the spirit realm, something rumored that they're said to be doing there, and a type of theory that is backed up by strange occurrences such as the god of destruction in Hinduism, Shiva, with the statue being there at CERN, a god of destruction at the largest machine on Earth. Kind of a strange coincidence. And then years ago, we also saw a strange, quote, fake human sacrifice filmed at CERN with pranking scientists doing a type of prank occult ceremony. I'll put that up on the screen right now. And these types of things just take place in the world with just people in positions of power and evil people or whatnot, just trying to promote evil and wickedness in the world, being blasphemous and disrespectful to God, just like the mockers and scoffers that will come in the last days. Similarly, in Bohemian Grove, where world elites gather, there's a Moloch statue there where they burn a, quote, fake effigy to Moloch to rid them of all the wrongs they've done in the world, when in reality God holds all people accountable for all of their actions. And of course, we see similar strange occult evil type of displays of imagery within different events that go on in the world, such as Super Bowl events or Grammys events and things like this. But all of this reminds me of the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal.
That's it on that Salaki for the long, um, let's just say video. But I really wanted to get the carnival thing on there, right? Because Brazil and also the West Indies, they do this all the time around this time, right? I believe it's in the springtime, which is a pagan ritual, man. But this stems back to Baal, right? Carnival, right? Also stems from the word carne a Baal, which means meat for Baal, which is meat offerings. Back in the days, they were offered children. Right nowadays, they offer themselves, in nakedness and lewdness and drunkenness and fornication. Right, they sacrifice their bodies for this thing. Right, where for our people, this is supposed to be Passover, a time of purging, a time of self-reflection, and this is the complete opposite. Our people are spiritual whores, and the Lord is going to deal with the 2/3, mocking and scoffing. And in this same town where they was doing this, the Lord has sent floods, right, for this type of behavior. Let me see it. It was on the video too.
Struck the White House. So just some strange occurrences in reference to that, as well as Brazil right after this carnival saw extreme weather hit the region, massive flooding, and just large natural phenomenons taking place. So a interesting coincidence to say the least. Now we see
Right, there is no coincidence in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Right, the Lord flooded the streets, the same streets that paraded this man to be the Messiah. This is Galatians 6 verse 7. Be not deceived. Right, don't fool yourself. Yahweh is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Verse 8, for he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. Right, these guys are going to get, offed, unalived, man, for this thing. And the Lord is going to visit these people who did these things, because the Lord does not like Baal. He's a very jealous God. Right, even in the first 10 commandments, thou shalt not have any gods before me. Right, Scripture said, I am a jealous God. But this is Deuteronomy 18 and 9. I believe they quoted it, or this chapter. It says, when thou art come unto the land which Yahweh Hashem Yahushai thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughters to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. And because of these things, because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doeth drive them out from before thee. Right? So the Lord does not like these things. To pass through the fire it's another way of saying, you know, how you worship Baal, you put the fire up and you sacrifice the children to in the fire, right? Physically. But now, people are celebrating it in a different fashion, but it's the same concept. They're still worshiping Baal, our people. This is how you know who the Israelites are today. Right, because we know Esau's also worshiping Baal over there in the Bohemian Grove. If you look at Bohemian Grove, but this topic is not on that. This is 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 26. And they took the bullock which was given to them, and they dressed it and called on the name of Baal from morning even until moon, saying, Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made, and it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them, and said, Cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or pre-adventure he sleepeth and must be awakened. Right, Elijah's over here mocking that God Baal. Verse 28, and they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets till the blood gushes out upon them. And it came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied unto the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regardeth. Right? So they did all that for nothing. Few of them probably died. Like they cut themselves to see if their God would answer, and then hear no answer. This is why our people gotta be destroyed, man. The simplicity of our people, man, our wickedness, our adulterous ways, right? As a nation, this is why the Lord judges us as a whole, right? But he does have an elect, the 144,000 and the 1/3 of Israel that shall be saved, right? For our sake, the Lord shall shorten those days, because these 2/3 ain't doing nothing to get us out of here. If it was up to us, we'd stay here. Well, not us, but the wicked of our people. This is Galatians chapter 5, verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness. Right? These are all the things that are going on at these carnivals, right? These meets for Baal. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, right? You saw it in the book of 1 Kings 18, where there was cutting themselves. There's wrath, right? There's sometimes people dying at these parties, right? Arguments, fights, riots, jumping on cars, right? It says strife, seditions, heresies. Verse 21, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the past that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. And that is the scariest verse of this video. All right, we in the pre Passover week here. Right, it's time to remove the leaven of last year. Right, so we could go into this new Passover, fresh, clean, and spiritually grown, man, growing. Right, keep pushing, keep striving, keep elevating. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learned from. Shalom to the for elect preachers, word and truth, sincerity. To your ribs, to your sisters out there, learning silence and staying in order. I say to you all, Shalom.